We're recording in person.
We are. We're going back to our roots, and by that I mean we're using a shittier quality microphone.
Well, I feel like the volume is going to be fine, or not the volume, but I feel like the sound quality will be fine. But
it'll be okay.
Should we? I feel like we should take a photo. I'm going to take a photo of you just standing next to this microphone, and it's on top of a boot. I won my pickleball league on Wednesday. That's what this is.
And you got a large ass boot.
I got a glass boot Stein for winning. And now it's our mic stand, so this is fantastic. Welcome back to Baltimore, though.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I am staying in Justin's new apartment, which is not exactly new anymore. It's been like a month or two that you've been here.
I moved in August
19th?
5th or 6th.
Also known as August 5th or 6th.
Or 7th or 8th or 9th.
Or 7th or 8th or 9th. I feel like it could have been the 9th because I had 19 in there somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
I'm visiting him for the first time. Lovely place.
You came for Halloween.
I did come for Halloween, and we went out last night.
We did. I first want to say Halloween on a Tuesday is so strange because it makes Halloween come so fast.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt like it was like, oh, it's the end of September, beginning of October. I should start thinking about my Halloween costume. And then all of a sudden it was the week of Halloween. Yeah. And I mean, we were in spirit together.
I was going to say, yeah, we were.
But I wasn't thinking about you. I mean, you were like, maybe I'll be the Cat in the Hat. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll be Edna Mode. But we didn't really
right.
I wasn't
we didn't
serious
do
about
either of them.
No.
Well, yeah, no, it really did come quickly because as you know, I was in Michael's literally 10 minutes before we were going to the party that we went to looking for a t-shirt. And for those that don't know, Justin was Scooby-Doo and I was the Mystery Machine. I've never watched Scooby-Doo, but when I was asked to be Scooby-Doo, and then you were later asked to join the group that we were doing,
yes,
I was like, it would be sacrilegious
you were
for me
asked
to be
Scooby-Doo first, right?
Yes, before they knew that I was going to be with you. And then they're like, oh, we need someone to be the Mystery Machine. And I was like, I cannot be Scooby-Doo when I have Justin Doo here.
It's funny because as I was dressed as Scooby-Doo, people were calling me Scooby-Doo. And it didn't feel that... I mean, yeah, obviously Scooby was different, but it didn't feel it didn't feel that strange because Doo is my last name. And I felt like just people were butchering my first name. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we were in Michael's 10 minutes before the party. I was the Mystery Machine, but speaking of, waiting to the last minute, I walked into Spirit Halloween the night before I flew down here. It was 10:57 p.m. They close at 11. Slapped a $5... First thing I did, went to the register, slapped a $5 bill down and said, I work in retail. I'm so sorry. This is for you. Keep it. And I know exactly what I want. I went to look for the Mystery Machine costume. They didn't have it in my size.
And
so what's the next step down from adult? Child. And they didn't have that either. So I went with the toddler costume. I'm not even kidding. The 2+. It was basically a Mystery Machine bra on me. So I wore that for the day.
I didn't realize that there were even Mystery Machine adult costumes. I mean, I know the one you had is toddler, but I didn't know that there were ones that are adult size.
Maybe I think there were because the person working called to a different store because she was like, it's saying they have 2.
Okay.
But they didn't. So anyways, you and I go out during the day, do a couple events. I'm wearing the Mystery Machine, but I wanted to get a shirt that matched the cyan color.
You were unhappy with the shirt color that
I was wearing. So we go into Michael's 10 minutes before the party we're attending. They only had 2XL. So I go up to the register. They had a 2XL, they had a small, but I would not have fit into the small. And the guy goes, that's going to be, like, I'm trying to go. I'm trying to pay and just get out of there. He goes, that's going to be too big on you. Like, And I'm like, I'm in the Mystery Machine costume, by the way, talking to him. I was like, sir, I am wearing a toddler-sized costume. Do I look like I'm taking myself seriously right now? Like, give me the 2XL and I'm leaving. Like, and so I wore a 2XL t-shirt with a 2+.
Well, he first said you should get the large.
Yeah, and I was like, sir, you don't have the large. He wasn't even ringing me up.
You don't think I was going to get the large if you had a large?
He wasn't even ringing me up. That was the other thing. I was like, you are being a backseat cashier right now. And then he took a shot at you. He was like, oh, I totally would be that.
Yeah, you're like, oh, he goes, it's weird that people are having Halloween parties tonight. It's Saturday night, the night before... Or the weekend before Halloween. What else would people be doing?
Working at Michael's, apparently.
Working at Michael's. I know. And then you said as we were leaving, like, oh, yeah, the people you're covering for tonight, they're probably at Halloween parties.
Right.
And so the guy says to me, I'm standing behind you in full-on Scooby-Doo costume with a collar and everything.
Mr. Scoobert-Doo.
Mr. Scoobert-Doobert. I think that's Scoobert-Doobert is the full name. And he points at me and goes, I would probably go as Scooby, but I'd make it sexy. What?
Shots.
I was like, what? I'm like, okay, one, I'm not trying to make a childhood cartoon character sexy in this moment. That's just not my style.
Right.
I didn't even think brown was my color. So it just...
I thought it was. I thought you looked great.
I think it looked
Ashley said otherwise.
Ashley, my sister, said it didn't look good.
My episode 3 fame.
My brother also said it didn't look good. I don't know.
Yeah, but like, hating. I thought you looked great. Can we also just talk about the music for a second at the children's event we worked?
Yeah, so
during the afternoon.
So we went to a couple of things on the Saturday. The first thing we went to was like a trunk or treat event that Loyola puts on, and it was an event. It's an event for kids where they go to the different tables, the different trunks, and you go trick or treating.
And they treat.
And it's a block party, right? And so there's different. I don't know. It's an event for kids. They found a DJ that was like a friend of a vendor who was there or someone, and the music
it was really something.
It wasn't just Baby Shark. It was
it was. So I heard they were playing like songs with expletives, like
yes,
including Shots by LMFAO.
Yes,
this was a children's event, people. So apparently one of the staff working the event had to go up and say, hey, could we at least play the clean versions of these songs? So he said, fine, whatever.
I'm curious what the clean version of Shots is.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. So we're standing there.
Spots.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Anyway.
We're standing there, and he's playing like Rihanna, whatever. And then the next song that comes on is Bad and Bougie.
To which
I literally hear my bitch is bad and bougie, and I was like, oh yes, finally, one for the kids.
One for the children.
One for the kids. But the weirdest part...
They started playing like Megan Thee Stallion, like Body, too.
Yeah, yes. But the weirdest part was when the DJ genuinely, like, unironically mashed up one of those songs with Baby Shark, and I'm not even kidding. Like, I could... And we were getting it. We were dancing. We were trying to get the kid, like the toddler who was walking by, to like laugh or whatever.
To do Baby Shark. Yeah, we were doing the little hand signal.
We were having more fun than he was. I think he liked Bad and Bougie better, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So maybe we were wrong there. But yes, overall, very fun night. Hopefully they're listening. I got to meet the cohors and hear that they know that I dubbed them the cohors.
Yes.
To their face. That was quite scary.
I hope they're listening too.
That was quite really scary.
Funny. Did you like?
They embraced it.
They embraced it. Yes. Did you enjoy them? Did you like them? I'm setting you up to only say yes. Just
can you imagine if I was like, not really. No, they were lovely. They were lovely. Yeah. I liked all of them.
Yeah. Allison, if you're listening, I really appreciated the Aang, the last ass bender.
Yeah, I was gonna say she was dancing, but she had an Aang from Avatar mask on, but the mask didn't have eye holes, and the face was very angry. So she was dancing, but time to stretch, according to Justin's laptop.
They know about that too, actually.
Cancel this stretch.
We're gonna cancel this stretch.
Let's cancel this stretch. Yeah.
And then we went to...
What did we do? We went to Rachel and Elizabeth's Halloween party.
Yes, we did, and that was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. I won the candy in the jar. Guess the amount of candy in the jar.
I love that
competition. That was really great.
Love it.
We didn't win best costume, but it's all right.
That is okay.
Right.
That's okay.
Like, there were a lot of us.
Won.
Ratatouille did win,
yes.
and they did a wonderful demonstration of how their costume works.
They did, of one getting on top of the other and pulling their hair.
Whisking. Whisking about as the hair was being pulled.
Kinky. Let's very quickly just rush through Big Brother talk. Can you pull up our standings, how many people we each have left? Because I think my life in our competition is just riding solely on Felicia, and that's scary.
That's not true, because you have...
Felicia and Jag. Oh, I might win the whole thing.
You have Jag.
So I might win the whole thing.
You could win the whole thing.
I have Felicia and Jag, but here's the thing. I don't want Sari going home, and she's up on the block with Felicia, so I'm kind of rooting against myself here, because...
Right.
Yeah, so who do you have?
Who do I have left? I have Bowie Jane, Matt,
Good luck with
Sari.
Her. She's getting third. I think I have the winner. But I think you have the most people staying.
I think you might have the winner too, but I think if Matt... I don't know, though.
I don't think Matt will win. I think Matt will win second.
You don't think... Because you think people are going to say he coasted?
Yeah, I just think Jag's competition wins are more impressive to the jury. But my stance, and then we can move on from Big Brother. Jag was evicted from the game and was brought back because Matt won a competition to stop Jag's eviction, basically. So he was evicted, the vote was revealed, it was unanimous, and then it was like, whoa, the eviction's been stopped. So I think if Jag wins first place, it's a slap in the face to second place when the goal of this show is to be the last one standing. If second place has never been evicted and first place has, and we're giving first place $750,000 and the runner-up is getting $75,000, like what is that? Or $100,000? I actually don't know what the runner-up gets anymore because it used to be $500,000 and $50,000.
Gotcha. I think it's there was a double eviction recently, and Matt.
Lame.
No, Bowie Jane got head of household and Matt got veto. I think Matt should have used the veto and put Jag up because
Matt wouldn't have been able to put Jag up.
Well, Bowie and I don't know, colluded with Bowie or something and put Jag up because I don't think if the two of them are the final two, I don't think that that Matt wins. Like I
think he's playing for second. I think he's playing for second, and I think he's okay with that.
You think so?
Yes, and yeah, I think he's okay with that. In the same way that I think Bowie Jane is so okay with being third.
But why? Because third gets nothing, right?
I think you need to tell her that, to be honest. I'm not sure she knows.
That's funny. Okay. Well, I have 3 people left. You have 2 people left. To reiterate, I have Matt, Bowie Jane, and Sari. You have Jag and Felicia.
So I'm going to have the winner. You're going to have second and third place. We're both going to have someone in the finale.
But also, I was thinking about this. In our draft, we did pretty well. That we're even. Like I totally could have had.
I thought you meant because we both have someone in the close to the end. I was like, there were only 2 people picking.
Well, yeah, no, but I think ultimately it could have totally been swayed one way or the other. You could have had
true,
tons of people.
True.
And I could have had no one, or vice versa.
True.
Like this game could have been ended.
True.
I mean, ultimately with our draft, it's whoever is left. But
and this is for our. We're playing Truth or Dare, and whoever has. Each time you lose someone, for those that don't know, you have to answer a truth or do a dare. So at the end of the game, we will tally up how many people each of us lost. And it sounds like it's going to be pretty even if we both have someone in the finale.
I know.
We were assuming this game would end when one of us lost all of our players.
Yeah.
But that might not end up happening. And that's probably going to be one of our last episodes of the year. I really feel like we have this.
Only a few more, because we're gonna
our 2023 finale and probably that one.
Right.
Honestly, I think
we're
that's
gonna take
the
our
only
holiday
one.
break. Yeah.
Yes.
But
yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's our Big Brother update.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so I wanted to talk with you about because you've come down to Baltimore a few times since graduation, since moving back home, but it seemed like this time I don't know if You tell me, did it feel different? It seemed like it felt different.
It did.
I don't know if it's just because I was hosting you at my own apartment or...
Well, it did because I've been back to Loyola a couple times. And by a couple, probably like 4 or 5, honestly, since graduating. And the first time it was really weird because you know how the first time you go back to a classroom
Go to episode 10
and
I'm talking about that.
Episode 10 with the iPhone?
Yeah, because remember, I was back for Mass of the Holy Spirit to help out.
Okay.
I was in a hotel, and I was like, it feels weird. This is my first time. It's fall 2021.
Right.
And I was like, this feels strange.
So it's obviously going to hit you the first time you come back. But now I've been out a couple of years. I've been back recently, but I've been, like, I get Snapchat memories that say 4 years ago today, and I was a senior, and then I want to throw up.
Terrible.
This time... felt very different because I've lived some life since then. I've had...
what do you mean by that?
I've had a full-time job for 2 years, which I think really does give you a lot more life experience. I really do. There was you've agreed
I can attest to that.
Yeah, off air. But yeah, no, this one was very different. It was almost like, I'm going to pull out my notes, but it was almost like a shock to my system.
Yeah.
Being back. Because more has changed now. More people have moved on.
Being back at Loyola on campus. Not necessarily Baltimore. Because
I've been on campus about 5 times, I would say.
Right, but I think the last time you were here, which I think was maybe June or July, you didn't go to campus and you didn't necessarily feel this way because you stayed with our friend Alyssa.
Yes.
But you didn't feel like...
No, because I went to her house, which wasn't in the picture.
And you weren't even in Baltimore. She lived in Baltimore?
She's in Maryland.
Yeah,
couldn't tell
outside
you
of Baltimore. Yeah.
Couldn't tell you where. But yeah, so many people have moved on since I was, visiting the first time and the second time.
You got a sense of my recurrent or legacy character in a reboot of a series type of feeling.
But I didn't even feel like I was a legacy character. I felt like I was a guest star, a C-level guest star. Like I was like a cameo for the old people.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I took some notes because I walked into campus ministry, which I've seen many times since graduating, and had like a full
We've recorded episodes in there.
Yeah, we have. I had like a full existential crisis. In a good way, though. It was very meta, and I started talking to you, and I was like, I sound very, like, hippy-dippy, like, whoa, man, like, how, like, I just did.
Oh, how it's changed.
Right. Like, for example, there are people that I saw as such staples of Loyola, such pillars, and just, they had a lot of permanence. And they're not there anymore. And those are people like George Miller, Megan Lyns Dickinson, who was my boss in campus ministry, but also students like Michael DiBianca, who was well known on campus, Chappie, and then just people in our friend group like Katie Mackey, Dan. Dan I talk to frequently because he's a part of this team, but I rarely talk to Katie. And I just thought, wow, at that time when we were students at Loyola, that was our present. That was our reality. That was our...
It was our world.
World.
Yeah.
And we all shared that world. And we were all permanent to each other in a way.
Our idea of... You're talking specifically of people who worked in campus ministry. Our idea of campus ministry revolved around those individuals being a part of it.
Exactly. And I go back and no one's there. So I think about how different it is now. I think about people like Paige. I still actually talk to Paige from time to time.
Yeah.
And I still to this day consider her one of my closest friends, even though we don't talk all the time. But it just made me think like how permanent I thought these people were. Like Father Jack. He wasn't even there my full 4 years, but now he's off on a different, like everybody who's not there anymore, myself included, are on their life path still.
Right.
But it's no longer where they were. And so I was thinking like, wow, like how lucky we were to share that common reality for the time that we did. Like when that felt like that would never change. And I'm not saying how lucky that we thought it would never change, because we all knew it would change, but it's crazy how fast the night changes. One Direction. Like, I'm kidding. No, but it's just, excuse me. It's just really wild that someone can be in your life that much and then they're living entirely different realities now. And that goes for right now too. Like, my reality now is Bluestone Bank, my friends at Bluestone, Claire, you. But you were also in the reality that I lived at Loyola. And I mean, you now are a grad student here, but I knew you in a different context when we lived in Massachusetts. Same with Tom. Like, I used to say high school felt like a different lifetime ago. I've now lived another span of college time since being in college.
Right.
So, like,
meaning 4 years after college.
Megan.
Yeah.
Those are all people I went to school with that now live in Boston. So, like, I see them. But, like, I just think it's wild that George Miller, who was your supervisor in campus ministry, is now retired. And
we went to Mass today and he wasn't there.
Right.
Did you feel that at all?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. He's no longer at Loyola, but he's still, just because I don't see him anymore doesn't mean he's not existing. And I know that sounds crazy, like, sounds like a stupid thing to say, but, like, he has a new reality, as do I. And those realities don't really cross. But it's just wild that the present moment is not always going to be this way. So I was just thinking, like, how lucky we were. And I don't even, like, in the moment when I was having these thoughts, I was like, oh my god, this is so meta. Like, I was thinking about it at Mass, all of that. Yeah, it is just, it's very bizarre. And I think, like, even with you, like, we take each other not for granted, but, like, our friendship, like, we see each other as, like, oh yeah, Justin, like, lives in Massachusetts, he's at Loyola, but we do the podcast, we talk to each other all the time. This is so depressing. Like, I don't mean to say it in a depressing way, but there is the possibility that in 3 years we barely talk. Yeah. I'm not saying that in, like, I hope that happens, but, like, it's just weird how, like, how it happens. And I want to give you a chance to speak, because I just, like, gave a long
No, it's
ramble,
okay.
But that was
it's
just,
good.
like,
I have a couple of thoughts. Yeah. Oh, now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like, oh, this bitch has way more to say.
I think one of the things you talked about is the power of, like, community and, like, people, and that it's not the place that made your time at Loyola special, it's the people there. And, like, I felt that too when, at a couple moments. First moment is when I came back to Loyola after graduating during the pandemic. Like, we talked about it on this show. I came back to Loyola. Yeah, there were similar people there, but it didn't feel the same. And it was just like, I don't know. It's different. It's different. Because the people in my grade weren't there anymore. And, like, obviously people in your grade weren't there, like, the year prior. And when you're at a college, it's constantly it's a revolving door of people.
Right.
Because you come in, you spend 4 years, you leave.
Right. But it gradually changes. So when
it's a gradual, you don't feel it right away.
But it was not gradual this time when I got there and no one was there that I knew. And it's also kind of humbling in a way, because it's like, I even think about the internship. Like, that internship was ours, right?
Yeah.
Like,
you talked about the power of that program.
Yeah.
In just making you feel, I don't know if it's purpose, could be purpose. I don't feel like a place you belong, or just like finding a group of people that you just build relationships with.
So, yeah. And the campus, I feel the same way. Like, the campus and the internship, I wrote this down. They're both ours for the moment, but they really have a life of their own. Like, that internship program that I was in, that you were in, that there were pro staff running.
Right. The campus ministry.
None of us are there anymore. You're not there as a student intern. You're a grad assistant.
Right.
And 90% of the pro staff that I worked with are gone, but that internship is still running. It has a life of its own.
And I get called old so much by the interns, because I'm always like, back in my day, like, things were like this, and there's a tradition. And, like, it was like, so, it's really funny. Although, shout out to Tino, who's a pro staff in campus ministry. There was an intern this week that thought he was 42 years old.
That's hysterical.
And that was really funny. And they were mind blown that him and I went to Loyola at the same time.
Right? It's crazy. And now you're a GA and he's a pro. It's just
and he's a pro staff.
Crazy.
Yeah.
The reality for me now is so different than it was 4 years ago. Like, I no longer walk to my destination, which is classes. Now I drive to work. I no longer get lunch with Dan and Katie every day. I no longer text Tom, one of my best friends and my roommates, after I was done for the day, saying, like, are you up? Like, what are we doing for dinner? Like, I don't go to the mall. Well, I go to the mall in Massachusetts, but that was Tom and I's Friday night a lot, going to the mall. I don't do any of that. So to be back here and Tom isn't here is very bizarre, because that was my life. Like, that was walking to class every day. I felt like I'm visiting. I've said this before about other situations, but I feel like I'm visiting a museum of my past.
Yeah.
Like, that is how it feels. Like, it's preserved.
I'm watching you relive the memories and and the feelings and the emotions that I felt when I came back here multiple times that I did. I'm no longer on, so I can say it. For the last 2 years, I've been on the board of trustees at Loyola. And so I've been coming back in a very different capacity of wearing a suit, being professional, being in the room where a lot of big decisions were being made and big conversations were happening. And that felt weird, because I went from student to that after graduating.
And now back a little bit. Not back, but you are a student.
I am.
Now.
And that's something that I have been, that was a struggle in a way too, because there were people in the room, like the vice presidents at Loyola are, Dr. Bravo, Dr. Katie Melzer, Dr. this, Dr. that. But when I was on the board, it was Milton, Deb, like full first name. So it's like, do I call them doctor or do I call them first name? I think it depends on the person. But yeah, like being in a space where you have so many memories with people that you will cherish for your entire life. And then you just start thinking about, like, there's a very good chance, unless there's an event that brings a bunch of people to campus, good, bad, or otherwise, it's a very good chance that those people that you made those memories with aren't going to be in that spot again. And it's fact, you're not going to be able to make those memories again because they were during your college years. You moved on from that life. You lived an entire college experience, 4 years outside of that experience. And so it's just like, it's just crazy, because you just think these people were staples of my Loyola experience. And now I'm back on this campus in this place that I love so much. And that nothing takes away from that. I mean, I'm speaking from my experience that I love so much, and as a graduate student, I still love this place. Right.
I do too.
I'm making memories with new people that you met this weekend in my cohort, and it's
I'm not
very
even
different.
a part of.
You're not a part of it.
I'm not saying I won't say. I'm assuming we're staples of your college experience, your undergrad college experience, and none of us are here anymore.
Yes. It was fun, sidebar, having you on campus again, because it's like, we've been on campus a few times, but it was like, hey, one of those staples.
This was definitely, but it's different. That's how I feel about show reboots. It's like, I often think that, like, wow, these actors changed so much from 20 years ago, but it's like and like even characters, it's like, why did they make this character? Like, that's not how they acted in this. And it's like, that really does happen in real life too. I feel like this was actually a really cool moment. The last time I was a student here, I was, you could say 22, but really 21, because I turned 22 and then
March of 2020.
Yeah, and then we went home because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Which may even be part of the, like, I didn't get, like, that closure. We've talked about that a lot, but that's not even where I'm going with this. I was 22, and at that point in my life, I know I talk about this all the time, but it is a lens that I have. Like, my OCD was more debilitating than it had ever been. Mm-hmm. And I ended up going to a hospital for it and staying there for 3 months. I was really, 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 really struggling, and I still have that, like, that disorder obviously doesn't go away, and I know I had it years before, like, and I knew I had it. It wasn't just like it got diagnosed at 22, like, got diagnosed way earlier. I was 14. But to think that I still have that, but I feel so young. Felt so young at 22. It's like, oh my god, that little kid. Like, I know I was 22, but I felt like I look back and I'm like, that little kid was going through the same thing. Like, I've lived just to measure it up against something that's been static, and that's just my memory of my last semester, unfortunately, at college.
Yeah.
That's why I'm using OCD as like the staple or the constant, because that really did define my last semester, unfortunately. But it's like when you take that static thing and then look at everything else that changed, it's like it really highlights how much is different.
Yeah.
Like the job, and I've made tremendous steps in recovery, and I've talked about that too, coming back and being like, oh my god, the last time I was here, I couldn't do X, Y, and Z, like little things like there were times that I didn't go to Dunkin' Donuts with Rachel and Elizabeth because I could not leave the house because it was too scary for me. And now, I don't think twice about it. So it is just wild how things change, but
and how you change.
Yes, but I don't even really want to make it about like progress that I've made. I'm really just like in the way that it's a constant, not the experience of OCD, because that has changed too since then, but I still have it. Being able to say that, but then bring up everything that's changed, it really highlights the change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of thinking, like, along the lines of think of something that you had when you were a kid, or, like, experienced that you were a kid that was the same. I think about it with Lady Gaga, too. When I go back to my elementary school, I was like, that kid who was so different from who I am now, just by nature of being a child, like, I loved Lady Gaga, and that hasn't changed. And that highlights everything for me that has. Can you relate to that at all, or is that...
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I also want to say about what you just said too, though, is you said you don't want to make it about like progress you've made, but in a way, I feel like we're talking about things change, and that's growth. Like
of course,
you're in a different place than you were when you were here, and that could go for OCD, that could go for like just maturity, other things too. But yeah, I think I can relate to that a lot. I can't think of a specific example right now, but
but it's like.
Yeah,
something
seeing
you
it through
liked
different
when
lenses.
You were 5 that you still like. I don't know.
Right. It's just, and it's different. I'm looking at a poster in my apartment. It's Land of Champions. It's all the Boston like teams when they won their respective leagues, and like my view of the Bruins. I've said before on here that I'm a huge Bruins fan. I would just go to games because my family had season tickets, but now I go because like. I love it, and I appreciate. Like I know the team, like the players, and I like am invested in that way. Like that's changed. That was a big reason of why I was sad moving away, is because I wouldn't be able to go. Baltimore doesn't have an NHL team, so I wouldn't be able to watch them play as much. I could go to DC, but that's different. But I don't know, something that I can think of right now of just like how it's changed, and I don't know.
I almost like want to dedicate this episode, not really like this episode is dedicated to, that sounds like sappy. I don't mean it that way, but like I'll speak for myself. I'm thinking about the people that I listed that I still hold as very close to me, that I don't talk to all the time, because I don't see them every day. Like Paige, Sam, even Dan, like I talk to him weekly because of the show, but we don't see each other in person.
Right.
Like we Zoom. But yeah, and I think of like all the pro staff that aren't in campus ministry anymore. Like Miss Lee is halfway across the country.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
People come and go.
Yeah,
like people come and go, and it's, I don't know. I feel like you're getting at I don't know if it's the fragility of the present moment, but just like not just staying in the present moment. The importance of because you never know what tomorrow brings, and not like in a morbid way, but in like a people come and go, life changes. People, some people go left, some people go right.
Right.
And it's I don't know, just hold your friends and family close, because it's like, again, that sounds like I'm like preaching something really bad, but it's like you never know where life's going to take other people.
Exactly. And I feel like we live, and I say we speak, I think this is a universal experience, just human. We live so many lives in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Like my Loyola life was very, 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 very different from my high school life, which feels like a fever dream at this point because it was a long time ago. My mom was actually just saying this. She feels like getting engaged and her and my dad getting
married,
but the condo that they lived in the first time they lived together feels like fake. Like it didn't happen. Yeah. Like it's like a story almost. Mm-hmm. I don't want to. Those aren't the words she used, but it sounds like you're like reading a story about yourself that didn't actually happen. It's like really weird. I'll also say, I was just gonna say something else too. I feel that coming back here has highlighted to me how much I've changed, and not necessarily in a good way or a bad way, but like the people you surround yourself with are really, at least for me, have an impact on me more than I realize. Like, being in the church again, like the Loyola Chapel. Yeah. I was around people every day that were talking about faith and talking about in a very progressive way. Like, that's what I loved about campus ministry. Nobody was like, oh, the Bible says and people can't be gay and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's
a very open office.
It's very open and chill. Like, very liberal. For which I appreciate, being someone who is liberal myself. But,
it's welcoming to all people.
Right, and it was our hangout. Yeah. Where the hell was I going with this?
You said something about you changing yourself.
Oh, I don't talk about that day to day. And I feel like I've become a little bit more closed off from that. I mean, we talk a lot about, like, you and I, but you're really the only person I talk to about that stuff on a daily basis. I feel like I was...
The deep stuff? In a way? The deep talk?
Yeah, but also just, like... I was closer to people who were involved in social justice work. I was having conversations about faith, and I was around social justice conversations a lot. Like, I don't do that as much anymore. And part of it is just because I'm, you get caught up in the go to work, go home, go to work, go home. Like, but it's also like I feel like I was surrounding myself with really, really great people because we all, campus ministry, we're all sharing this, like, for the most part, passion for these topics. And I don't have that every day, and I feel like I've kind of gotten away from it a little bit. I still hold, obviously, my core values of, kindness and being a good person, but it just, like, it highlighted for me how much you are the people who you are around. And I'm not saying I'm around bad people now. I'm just, we don't talk about that stuff, so it's very interesting to me.
I think you're getting back to themes that we talked about in very earlier episodes of this show, because I remember making comments about how when you're in college, it makes those types of conversations, those types of things very easy. Because like you said it earlier, you're walking, everything's in walking distance, or there's a student organization for this or an office for that. But when you get out into the real world, if you want faith and social justice to be a part of your life, you have to go and join something that's in driving distance away, that's outside of what you were referring to as you get up, you go to work, you come home, you do your routine, you go to bed and do it all over again. And you have to make it intentionally part of your routine. Not that when you're in college, you don't have to make it part of your routine, but it was easy. We had it. It was part of our job to have those conversations. I mean, I'm sure you're part of other different clubs too, but like
I wasn't.
You just joined.
Who had time for that? Like, we literally were in. That's not true. I did intramural volleyball with you.
There we go.
But like, I was in campus. I was social. Don't get me wrong. Like, I was never just in my room doing nothing. Right. Like, I was always doing something. But I always felt clubs were like very much felt like a chore to me.
Okay. Well, I think my point still stands of like, campus ministry is something that you were very much a part of, and it was easy because it's right there.
Yes, and I felt such a sense of belonging.
Right, and it's not like, unless you're doing something like ministry work, or you're doing work that's like, social justice oriented, which I think you can weave those things, social justice, into any job. But your job as a marketing specialist at a bank, you can add those pieces to it, but you're not always having meetings talking about, okay,
right,
are we focusing on the people who are on the margins? People like, I don't know, what does your faith say about this post that you need to do for your job or whatever?
Like, and and I just think that this is going to sound so cliche, but when you're removed from these environments that it's the norm to talk about, you have to be the change, which that's like a very cliche thing. Time to stretch!
There's also not...
Cancel this stretch.
There's also not things. One of the next time it comes up, we should do it.
We should.
You'd be surprised by the graphics. They look really scary.
Oh.
You also, in the real world, these things on college are already set up for you. there's structures.
Yeah.
Like,
God, we love structure.
Campus ministry is an office that's already there. Like, maybe you're, if you want to, practice your faith, maybe there's a parish that's already there, but maybe that community is not really like what you're looking for. And if you want, I don't know, Cura or Koinonia was something that I think you were a part of, right? That was basically just people got together, they shared, just had deep talk. I mean, it was faith-based, but it wasn't necessarily conversation around faith-based topics. It just started and opened with prayer and, had constellation, desolation, rosebud, thorn, all of that stuff. But like, if you want to start that, you have to start it if it's not really there. It's difficult to find. I mean, in a way, when you graduate, the world's your oyster, right? Like there's something for everyone.
But you gotta go find it.
You have to go find it, and it might be miles away, and it might not be in a convenient spot, and you might have to, get people who are also interested in that and start it yourself, and that's time consuming, energy consuming, and maybe financially consuming if you have to put money towards it. So I don't know. It's like even a gym membership. Like, okay, honestly, that piece too. Like, I was fortunate enough that to a certain degree, my family was able to help me with the expenses of college. And so the gym was paid for by my room and board, and
and my room and board, and I barely went to the gym.
Right. So but now I need a gym membership.
Right.
And I gotta pay for that.
Right.
And so I don't know. It's, again, themes, we've talked about this before. This is not new on this show, but like, I don't know if that's, in a way, it sounds like that's what you're getting at too. I want to ask you though, and I think maybe you answered it a little bit, but there was a moment when we walked out of the chapel, we walked down the stairs, going towards kind of the main drag on campus, and you stood there on the main drag and you kind of looked up at Sellinger School of Business, which is one of the buildings on campus, and we started walking towards the student center, and I was like, what are you experiencing? Should we start recording now? What was it about that moment? Was it deja vu? Was it kind of what you're experiencing about nostalgia. Like, I've been here?
It was nostalgia before. And it was everything that I've said so far. And I know I'm going to listen back to this episode and cringe because in the moment I was feeling it so much.
That's why I wanted to record it.
Well, no, and I feel it now. I just meant like I wanted to get all my thoughts down. Yeah, it was just very, I liked it actually. I really liked that feeling. It was very like comforting melancholy. I don't know if that's even like a thing. I saw a little statue that Santino and I used to joke about. My friend Santino, he's been on the podcast. Our friend Santino, episode, we'll get back to that.
He was on Password,
56.
Right? The Password
56,
episode?
Yes, the Password episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, I was just feeling everything.
You just saw the things that made the memories tangible.
Yes, and there are two things I want to kind of end with on my side, and if you have any closing thoughts, but you say everything was right there for you at college. One of the things I really regret, and I'm thinking of a specific person, and I don't know why, because it wouldn't have worked out, just because for, what's the right word, compatibility reasons. I wish, like, dating is hard for everyone. So I feel like it's a little bit harder to find someone if you're a part of the gay community, just because there's not as many out people, at least in my neck of the woods, like where I live. I wish I had the courage in college to message a crush and just be like, hey, do you want to get Starbucks sometime?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of one person in particular that I would, going back, if I could do stuff differently, I would, because I've done it now to an extent, but not with that person. But I just mean, like, wow, I really could have, had a different experience.
Is that a change in yourself, or is that a change going from a college environment to the real world?
Both. But I wish that I had that change a little bit earlier, and at the same time, I took for granted that, that was in front of me. And at the same time, I joke, we walked by a Loyola Pride poster and that a bunch of people had signed it. And I jokingly said to Justin, yeah, right, there are not that many gay people at Loyola. And what did you say?
I said there are actually a handful. Like, that's one of the...
It's not supporting your argument.
I said Spectrum is one of the most active clubs on campus.
I don't even think I heard you say that. I was probably not paying attention.
And it has a lot of members, and it's not just allies. There are people who are out and proud, a part of the student body on campus.
To which I said, of course there are, because I'm not here anymore. And I was joking. I'm very happy for them, obviously. But that's a Loyola I wish I was a part of. And I never felt uncomfortable ever. And I'm just speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for any other queer person on campus. But I always felt very comfortable. But I didn't feel like there were a lot of options romantically.
Yeah.
So that and not that it's only a romantic thing. Like,
was there a second thing too? You said
that was the second thing. Like, I'm glad that, but even that goes to show the change, that happens both in us, but also in the school, and it's crazy.
I also think we've been talking about how Loyola itself has changed both in the people and both maybe even buildings. Physically, the campus has changed. We're talking about how we've changed since college. But I also want to bring up too, like, how much the world has changed since we were in college too. Like, I think Loyola is always not the people is a different thing, because that's our own personal memories of people. But I always feel like Loyola is a microcosm of the greater world. And I think, just on your last point, I'm wondering if the world or the church or some part that Loyola subscribes to is more welcoming to LGBTQ individuals, and therefore
in some ways I think it is.
It's okay at Loyola to be out and proud, versus maybe there were people who were part of that community when you were there but weren't as forthcoming with it.
My experience was that Loyola was a more liberal school than my high school, which was also Jesuit. And a lot of people from BC High went to Loyola. Yeah. BC High was my high school, Boston College High School. And it may have, you say you don't recognize Loyola and you've been out 4 years. God only knows what BC High looks like 8 years later. But, now I work in a bank. And banks tend to be more conservative. So I'm surrounded by a lot of older, white, conservative men. Not all of them, but I'm surrounded by that a lot. In a way that,
Straight?
Yes. Straight. Yes. So I feel comfortable. Like, nobody's like being like, no one's made any comments, no one said anything. Like, I cannot, but like politically, I think I know where some people stand, where it wasn't the case. Not that it wasn't the case. We had,
and there are still people at Loyola who feel that way too. Of course,
but I just feel like Loyola's or college. The idea of college is usually progressive. Right? I would say.
I think it depends on the school, but I think what your point is when you're in college, I think colleges are meant to be a space where people can have free conversations, free thoughts, and explore their philosophy of different things. And hopefully, maybe not always the case, but a safe environment, where they can figure out what is my thought on that. Maybe this is my family's thought, this was my community's thought from back home, but what do I think about X, Y, and Z?
Right. And I do want to reiterate, I feel very comfortable at my job, and especially my boss is phenomenal. Yeah. And I love her. She's awesome.
Yeah. So I guess my final question for you, and maybe I can answer it too.
Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts.
But my final question to you is, when you think about, I'm going to go back to Loyola, what do you think about when you make trips back down here? And has your experience this time around, where you just were hit with nostalgia, I'll use your word, has that changed your view of Loyola, looking forward, not looking back? I'm not saying did it taint memories, but I'm saying did it, like, if you were to come back, say, for the Bull and Oyster event, has that changed your perspective of or your expectations coming to campus again?
Well, Bull and Oyster will never be
your entire college campus experience.
Right. Yeah. I think a little bit, because I was always someone that wanted to go visit my elementary school, wanted to go visit my middle school, wanted to go visit high school, after, to the point that I felt washed up. I was one of those kids that the teacher's like, I was one of those kids that the teacher was like, what are you doing here? You had me a year ago. Yeah. Why are you coming to visit? And I'd go with friends. I never just showed up alone. That's not true. I feel like it's not my place to just show up. You have a reason to be here. And I
felt that the last 2 years, though.
Right.
I did feel that the last 2 years, even though I had a connections to the office.
Yeah, and I've had conversations with some of our other friends who have said, yeah, I don't really want to go back right now. I feel like it would be a lot to go back now. And I get that. But I get it more so now that I'm like, I kind of feel like a wash-up just being here. And not even so much as, like, no disrespect to anyone that comes back just to visit, but, like, even, you know, being here now, like, I have a reason to be there. You're working. But, like, if I were to just go...
You're friends with Emily?
Yeah. Who's not here.
She is. Well, not at the moment.
No, I mean, I didn't get to see her. To go back to Loyola specifically, like, I'll always go back. I say I feel like a wash-up. That doesn't mean I don't want to go back. I'll always go back. I'm a sucker for nostalgia. But yeah.
I'm here again.
Yes.
Yeah. I definitely felt that way, and I think it goes back to what you said very early on in this episode is we had the campus, we had the intern program. Mm-hmm. It was our time. And it's no longer our time.
Right.
And I mean, I've said this before. I linger in the past.
I do too.
A lot.
I do too.
It's a sucky truth, but it's a reality that we had our time and our time has passed. And even as a graduate assistant in the same office that I used to work at, 2018 to 2021, I find myself trying to not linger in my memories of it, but have the same spirit of what the office was for me and let them, like the interns that I work with, experience that for themselves and make the memories themselves, because I'm not going to force my experience onto them. That's just not how it's going to work, and it's not going to be successful. It's not going to be accepted. So it's letting them have their time and giving them, empowering them to have the amazing memories, hopefully, that I had, but also acknowledging that our time is up.
Also while being jealous of them.
Yeah, also being kind of jealous of those were simpler times when I was that age. But
it's wild. I've heard that the reason we love nostalgia so much and we love the past so much is no matter how chaotic it was, we know what happened. So there's a comfort there. Even if it was the worst years of your life. That's why you can look back on pain sometimes and be like, wow, those were the worst years of my life, but like, I have some nostalgia for it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying college was the worst 4 years of my life.
There's no anxious uncertainty.
Loyola. Right. I had a great Loyola experience. Like, college experience was phenomenal for me. And I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
Because I'm not someone that, like, easily makes friends and, like, finds their group. Like, in middle school and high school, like, I didn't have, like, the popular group. And we still weren't. But, like, I felt like I found, like, my group that I just completely belonged. And everyone else in the group did, too. And it was just amazing. So.
And you've maintained those friendships.
Yeah, no, I have. Through FaceTime. It's different.
Right. It is different. Because not everyone, like you said, or like we said, not everyone is right there on campus in walking distance.
But when we come back, it's like we never left.
You pick up right where you left off.
When I do see Alyssa, like when I went to her house in June, so much fun.
Yeah.
Had such a great time. I'm having such a great time. And this, honestly, I will say, this is how I want to end my thoughts on the episode. But actually, this time, this has been so restorative for me and just kind of like eye-opening, because I was not having a good, like, Friday was not a good day. I think it was Friday.
Yeah, you said Friday.
Saturday was not a good day. Even though I was having fun, I was like in my head. Today has been pretty restorative, and it's not going to fix anything, but it's like definitely helping. So
yeah.
So thank you.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Thank
you.
I'm
glad. I like recording in person. I feel like it comes few and far between now that we're in states away. But
and on that note, my flight is tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
My flight home.
But I'm glad you're here. I hope you come again. It's been nice hosting you.
See, I do struggle with who I'm staying with because I don't want to offend people. So I feel like I have to stay with Elizabeth and Rachel the next time because they were the last people I stayed, I stayed with Alyssa. Then I feel like I have to go back to Alyssa, then go to you. I feel like I'm juggling. And
I mean, out of all the people you mentioned, I'm the only one without a roommate. So
see, but then he makes me feel guilty about it. And with that, his name is Justin Dew.
And you are
Nick Gervasi.
And you can reach us at our email, pointofviewpodcast@gmail.com, and our socials, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and TikTok @pointofviewpodcast, and Twitter @pointofview. If you enjoy our show, make sure you to follow the podcast and give us
I'm kidding.
What the hell is that?
I was clearing my throat. I did that intentionally.
Make sure to follow the podcast, and you can hear more of what Nick just did. And give us a rating or review wherever you get your podcast, or share us with a friend or family member. We really appreciate it and are truly grateful for your support. As always, we hope you have a great 2 weeks. Thank you for listening, and until next time.
H.